Revealing his identity could have dire consequences. His name didn't typically inspire the generosity and welcome of generals and kings. Most, given their way, would have him imprisoned or beheaded on the spot rather than risk discovering he'd been sent to execute a contract on them. The decision was taken from his hands. "This," spoke Evren before the hunter could make up his mind, "is the hunter of Veramis." Lady Callista's posture went instantly tense, her eyes narrowing to hard, wary slits. She watched him the way one watched a slithering viper. The tip of her flame-bladed sword wavered as if she prepared to cut him down. From behind the hunter came the clank of Shalandran steel plate mail and the stomp of booted feet. The hunter didn't need to glance over his shoulder to know the 4 keepers' blades had placed themselves between their ferrous and the blood-soaked assassin standing before the wagon. His hands were empty, but the scimitar on his back and the daggers visible on his belt would be threat enough to any well-trained soldier, and Shalandra's elites were well-trained indeed. "And this is Kiara," Evren said quickly. "I told you about her. Him, too." "So you did." Lady Callista's voice betrayed nothing, but the hardness of her face and the huge sword she kept unerringly pointed at the hunter spoke loudly enough. She repeated the words, drawing each out. "So you did." The hunter returned the woman's scrutiny in equal measure. She cut a commanding figure, tall, imposing, nearly as thick in the shoulders as Tanard had been. She wore no helmet, but appeared no less fierce for its absence. On the contrary, her bare head and the long dark tresses she wore loose, held in place only by a golden headband set with a silver disc on her forehead, screamed defiance, as if daring an enemy to strike her down. The spikes protruding from her heavy black armour's pauldrons, couters, vambraces, and polaines accentuated her breadth and strength. The hunter had no trouble imagining her shattering a shield wall all on her own. And that was before she brought the immense 2-handed flamard to bear. The sword stood almost as tall as the woman herself, its flame-shaped Shalandran steel blade a black nearly as deep as the eyes of Shalandra's founder, or the hunter's own. Razor-sharp claws sprouted from each of the quillions, and the pommel was cast in the shape of a spiked metal ball, akin to the head of a mace. But the hunter's gaze was inexorably drawn to the transparent, egg-sized gemstone set into the crossguard, just above the sword's haft. A gemstone that would emit a terrible crimson glow when the blade tasted the blood of its foe. The blade of Hala, an Imtasi weapon, much like soul hunger, and a relic just as old. Instinctively the hunter drew in a breath through his nostrils. His keen sense of smell sifted through the various aromas that mingled to form her unique scent: freesia, hyacinth, oak, and pecan wood. He was almost disappointed to find no trace of the stench of rot and death that marked the Abirazi, who were as much her distant forefathers as they were his.